survivors, welcome back to another edition of Surviving the Badge here at the Surviving the Badge bar. Cheers. Two cops talking cop shit. So tonight we're going to go into the third installment of the So You Want to Be a Cop, and we're basically going to be covering the you've got the offer now from the agency, whatever it is, police, whatever it is, they've offered you and said, okay, we want to hire you. Now you're going to have to go through and do a lie detector, CVSA, whatever that agency calls it. You're going to have to do the whole background investigation, the whole 40 yards. They're going to run you through a physical, everything.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
So tonight we kind of want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen with all of that and how that's going to work and everything. But before we do that, let's do our officer down.
All right. As of right now, we are looking at 23 in the United States. Firearms is still the highest. Second to that is vehicles. So please be careful out there with your vehicles. Absolutely. And responding to traffic stops and domestic violences. So to hear all of our fallen brothers and sisters,
salute. We salute you. God bless and be careful. And our salute moment is brought to you by our sponsors, and here's a word from them. Contact Mainstreet Realty for all your real estate needs. This power team includes Tom Clem, a veteran Marine and retired law enforcement professional. Thank you, sponsors. Really appreciate it. Tom and Kristen Clem, thank you very much. Okay, so going into this, when they make an offer for you, you're going to get a letter, and they're going to probably call you and say, hey, we want to extend you an offer. It's a conditional offer, they call it. And what the conditions are is you've got to pass the full background investigation. And I mean, they go into your grade school, your high school, all your school records, your college records,
ex-wives,
neighbors. They go into your credit score. They're going to look at your credit score. They're going to look and see if you have any judgments against you. And why is that? If they want to know if you're financially sound, why is that?
Well, they want to make sure that you're not vulnerable. If you're like super in debt, and I mean it's not like an everyday thing, but they do want to make sure that you're not vulnerable, because there's been opportunities, or not opportunities, but there's instances where people and officers are dealing with millions of dollars in cash.
Absolutely.
Do you remember your biggest amount that you've dealt with? Like, cause you were in the narcotics unit.
In the drug unit, I think at one point we had seized a little over $100,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And an older, like a veteran, told me a long time ago when we were counting cash, he says, always remember, if it's not yours, it's just paper.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, they want to make sure that you're not going to be tempted, because of all of your debt and everything.
Absolutely. So your credit score plays into it. I mean, I'm not saying you have to have a perfect credit score by any means,
especially nowadays.
But what he was saying, they want to make sure that you are not so far into debt and your creditors sent you to collections, and you're not able to pay your power bill and your rent and everything else because, yes, vulnerable big time. Then they're going to look at your relationships, like he said. They're going to look at everything. I mean, every facet of your life is going to be looked at. I know the Florida Highway Patrol, when they come out and they interviewed and they did my brother's background, they actually took his wife out to dinner.
Okay.
And talked to her about, how do you feel about him becoming a trooper?
Right.
Or how does this going to make you feel at home? Is there anything we should know? I mean, a full interview of his spouse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a very thorough one, big time.
When I went with the state, I had my first divorce, and the investigator came and talked to my ex-wife. Good thing we had a great relationship, but they talk to ex-spouses. They talk to, and they look at people's associations. I remember long time ago, I had some students when I was teaching college, and they, in their background, because they were going through hiring, in their background, they found out that they had been associating with known gang members.
Yeah.
And You know,
Yeah,
and
that's an immediate.
they had to really because these were really good guys, and they deserve to be good cops, but
Yep.
they're going to look at that kind of stuff.
They really are.
You associate, and my students now they're in high school, but I tell them you can choose your friends. They're going to look at who are you living with, who's your roommate.
Can't choose your family.
Can't choose your family,
but you can choose your friends.
Yeah, because I mean, if you have a father or a mother or a brother who have a criminal record, you can't do anything about that.
No, you can't. Unless you were in it with them,
right?
Cahoots,
right? If you're still living at home with your folks, and like you're 19, you're about to move out, or you were living, they're not going to say, "Well, last year you were living with a known felon." Well, yeah, that was my brother.
Right? Absolutely.
But, they can look at who are you living with as a roommate. Who are your friends?
And that brings up another point, a good segue into my next point, which is social media.
Oh, absolutely.
You better clean up your damn social media, and you better go back to the end of time or when you signed up for it. And all these pictures, of you doing nasty things or, screwing around with guns or hanging out with gang members or doing whatever you're doing.
A joint in your mouth, a gun in one hand, cash in the other. Yeah, not a good look.
All that shit is going to show up, and they will look at every piece of social media, and they will go into all your AKAs through your social media and everything else. So, I mean, him and I didn't have to worry about that when we started because there was no such thing as social media.
I've known background investigators, and what they've told me is they'll call in a candidate. Hey, we need your signature on some paperwork here. Oh, while you're here, sign into your social media and show it to me, because some people might have it, on private or whatever.
Sure.
But sign in, let us see what you got. Yeah. So you better be ready for that.
You better be ready.
Well, that's protected. Yeah. Well, then bye-bye.
And they'll ask you, what names are you using on your social media? We need that on your your application, your secondary, which is your long application. They'll ask you all of that crap, everything, about your social media history nowadays. So clean that up.
So another thing is they will look at former employers, and I know there's a lot of protections. Oh, well, you can't ask former employers. Well, the way they get around that is they have you sign a release. Hey, sign this release where we can get all of the records from your former bosses. Oh, you're going to talk to them? Yes, we are. and
I know over 10,000 people. I've lived here in this area my entire life. And if you don't think I don't know anybody that works at Publix or Target, or freaking Walmart or Olive Garden or whatever, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, the other 7 guys that are going to be helping with your background investigation or in investigations, somebody knows somebody, and they're going to call them and get the back end story. So you better have your crap together, and you better be, up above board with everything.
And start thinking about being professional. Change your email from Papa Cop, 69 to maybe your first name and last name and a number or something.
420 forever.
420 forever. Yeah, it sounds like we mentioned that before.
Yeah, we did.
Start being professional. You got to get your mind right in a professional setting, because and I tell my students, I said, you're not looking for a job from somebody your age. You're looking for a job from somebody my age.
That's correct.
And they don't want to see all that shit.
No, they don't. So good point there. So let's say you've been through, they call you in, they want to ask you a few questions. You're going to go into, let's say, your CVSA, which is your lie detector.
You're going to dress professional anytime you go in the building.
Every time you walk in that door, you need to have at minimum a pair of slacks, nice shoes, a collared shirt, like a polo shirt at very minimum, and a nice belt and everything else. For you females, dress, I wouldn't say business casual. I would say business-like. Because I don't know anything about women's clothes. I don't know what the hell to tell you to wear, but just business-like you were going into a job interview.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Every single time you walk in there. I mean, I say that, but man, I see people show up to job interviews. Hell, I used to see them walk into court. Freaking court, man.
Yeah,
with
pants hanging down.
Pants.
What do you have going on your shirt there?
My bad. Sorry, undershirt. Open.
You think looks probably appropriate for something to wear to court?
I'm sorry. My apologies.
hanging down, dirty ass
Hats
shirt.
on sideways.
It's like, come on. I mean, the judge knows you're a working person. If you come in there in your uniform and it's a little soiled, I mean, they get it. But comb your damn hair, take your hat off. I mean, I'm talking about in court,
Yeah.
not for your job thing.
Speaking about court, I've seen some videos where you could tell the guy, it works construction, but he took his hat off.
Correct.
He cleaned himself up
Correct.
as best that he could, and the judge recognized that. He
Yes.
says, hey, I see you're a hardworking guy. Appreciate you taking the hat off.
Let me see the hat.
101st Airborne Division, Your Honor.
101st Airborne?
Yeah, I was in the 4th, 5th, and 76th Infantry Division as a drill sergeant for 5 years, communications specialist, radio teletype operator.
Did you go to Fort Benning?
Fort Benning, Georgia, yes.
Put the hat on.
Oh, boy.
You're gonna be proud of your military service.
I am proud, Your Honor. I don't get me wrong. I am proud.
I want to see a good salute. Come on. There you go.
Gestures like that go a long way.
They really do. So you go into your CVSA, what can you expect? You can expect
Do
questions.
you want to tell them what a CVSA is?
Yeah. Well,
Computer Voice Stress Analyzer.
thank you. I was going to say voice stress analysis,
Yeah.
but same thing. So you go in, you walk in, lie detector,
Yeah,
basically
that's
what it is. So you walk in and they're going to sit you down and they're going to talk to you first. And they're going to say, these are some of the questions that I'm going to be asking you. I just want your absolute honest response to these questions. And if I have a question or I see a reaction or something, I may ask you to clarify it, and you're going to clarify it. Just be honest, man.
Yep, honest.
You cannot keep up with a lie for very long.
Mm-mm.
And that machine will know when you are lying. If you tried marijuana when you were 18, 17, 16, whatever, and you smoked it a couple times, then tell them that.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not a big deal.
That's exactly what that pre-interview is for. These are the questions.
Right.
Well,
and they're going to let you
have
know.
you ever stole anything? This is the time to say, well, I used to work at a job and we had pens all over the place and I could take pens. Are you talking about that? No, we're not talking about clerical stuff.
Yeah,
We're
when
not
I was a
talking
little
about that.
kid, I walked into the 7-Eleven. I was like 11 years old, and I stuck, a candy bar in my pocket, and I walked out, and my mom caught me and beat my ass.
Yeah.
Okay, they want to know, but it's not going to keep you from getting the job.
Get that shit out of the way so that
Yes.
it's not hanging on there and they go, well, you're deceptive here about something.
Absolutely. And then after all that's over with, let's say you pass.
Well, let me talk about something real
Yeah, absolutely.
that lie detector starts at the application. If they see that you filled out your application and you falsified your application,
Oh, you're done.
yeah, you're done.
Done.
Be truthful starting on the application.
Absolutely.
Because they're gonna find it out in the CVSA, and you're like, well, you weren't truthful. Well, I figured no, you were not truthful.
No, you lied.
Explain it the best way you can. I was
Add a page.
I was about to say on a hard copy paper, but it's probably. I was going to say, wait, you said agitate. I was going to say write it on the back, but I'm like,
They still give papers.
Okay.
Yeah, paper. I mean.
Yeah.
Well, now I guess most of them are online, but I mean, you can add something to it, or whatever. Say, can explain further,
Right.
upon
Yeah,
request.
something like
you know
that.
what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do the best you can, but do not, because they're going to find out. Do not think that you're smarter
Exactly.
than these people who've done it. That's their job. Just be truthful.
Because as soon as you do, you're donezo.
Yep.
You are donezo. So anyway, so then after you finish this, you're going to go in, you're going to do a psychological exam in most places, or they're going to take you to a physical agility. You'll have to go out and you'll have to run 440 feet or 440 yards. You'll have to drag a dummy. You'll have to, do an obstacle course. You have to push a car, whatever it is, dry fire a weapon and then push a car, whatever. It went way back, but
They have everything you mentioned. They just don't have pushing a car anymore.
really,
Yeah.
well, that's stupid.
How far did you have to ride the horse?
Hold on. What a jerk. Anyway, so you're going to have to do that. And then you're going to go, or before you're going to go to a psychological. Once you do the psychological, this is when a psychologist is going to sit down and give you about 700,000 freaking questions. And when you're going through that, you're going to say, oh my God, they already asked me this.
Yep.
And here's the reason. If you said, and y'all are going to laugh, but this is one of the questions. Do you look at your excrement in the toilet after using the bathroom? And if you say no, you're probably 98% of you are freaking liars, because everybody does.
Right.
And then they'll ask you in a different way, 400 questions later, what color is your excrement?
Yeah.
And you'll say, brown.
Right.
Well, how do you know if you don't look at it?
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, do you like flowers? They'll ask you, do you like flowers?
Do you like walking through a meadow?
Yeah. All kinds of weird ass shit.
At the beginning of the test, you're like, yeah, I could see myself walking through a meadow. 3 hours later, when they ask the same thing, I'm like, hell no, I don't want to walk through shit right now.
Yeah. You're like, oh my God, please, can you please freaking stop with this shit?
I know when we did it, it was the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personal Inventory or something. I don't know.
How in the hell do you remember this shit? Because he's freaking Einstein. Look at the hair.
But they do. They look at, see if you're crazy. I mean, are you gonna?
They do.
You know,
Yeah, they do.
I don't know how they do that. We're not in the biz, but
no, I had a real good friend of mine go through it for one of the agencies north of us, and he failed. And he's like, what? And I'm like, dude, you're like the sanest person I ever met in my life. And he said it showed deception. So he asked if he could go back and do it again. He went back, did it again. He passed.
Really?
He was just, I guess he just freaked the hell out and just got all wacky and whatever, but got all wacky on a psychological. Imagine that.
Yeah.
But just answer honestly.
Yeah.
All right. Just get through it. Get it all done. Move on. Once all that's passed and you've passed everything, you know, all the tests, all the exams, everything else, then they're going to make the final offer, which is.
Well, hold on. Just a second.
Yeah.
So, what they're going to do, the last two things they're going to do, like LT was saying, they're going to do the psychological, and then they're going to do a physical. And they do those last because everything else can be done in-house.
You're talking a medical physical.
Yeah, medical physical.
Yeah.
Everything else can be done in-house. But what if they start, an agency starts with, let's say 100 candidates, they're not going to spend money on 100 people just for 5 positions.
And that's with the psychological and the medical physical, because both of them cost them money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to do the psychological and then the physical. And this is where they find out if you're blind as a bat, or, you know, you have a bad heart, or, you know, they're going to run an EKG, and you're going to do eye test and
colorblind.
All that kind of stuff. And they're going to, those are the 2 of the last things that they're going to do, because they have to pay for them.
Yes, they are. So after you passed all that, hopefully everything is good to go. You're rolling. They're going to make the final offer, and that'll be, okay, we want to start you on XYZ.
Now, LT, so let's say they have 7 positions,
right?
And they have 10 people that so how does the chief, because chief ultimately makes the decision, okay, these are the 7 people that we're going to decide. Do they get input from the people who've been doing the interviews and all that, or how does that usually?
Well, our agency, the chief would call them in for a final interview.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we did the interviews on them. And then he would take the scores off the interview sheets and the comments that we made during the initial interviews and all that. And then the chief will call him in for the final interview, and then he just makes the final decision.
Okay.
In a big agency, I'm sure the sheriff doesn't do that. He just leaves it up to some captain, and they look at your education, your prior experience, you know, your background, and then, okay, you know, this guy's got prior military. He goes to the top of the line. Prior law enforcement, top of the line. Okay, this guy's got a 4-year degree, but no prior military or law enforcement. Okay, second in line, you know, and they just move it up like that. It goes when everything's equal.
Yeah.
What else do you go by? Right. You know what I'm saying?
And don't get discouraged if you're not on an initial list, because understand everybody else is applying at 4, 5, 6, 10 different places, and the agency may call you and say, hey, we're going to offer you this position. Oh, you know what? I just took a job with Orlando. Yeah. So if you're not on, somebody will move up.
Yeah, for sure. Or they get an FTO and they bomb out in 3 weeks.
Right.
And they go, hey, we got this guy in reserve. We didn't hire him, but let's send him an offer to see if he still wants the job.
Right.
Bam. You may get an offer 6-8 weeks from now, and they may call you and say, hey, we have an initial opening. We want you to come in. Are you still available? So has anything in your background changed? Has anything in your employment history changed? No. They'll have you sign a form that nothing's changed. Yep. They'll hire you. So very good point on that.
One thing we didn't mention is they're going to do a driving history also. Have you been in 14 crashes and have had your driver's license revoked?
Well, that goes with the background, but yeah, that'll be a background
check.
Yep.
Because you're going to be in a how heavy is a police car? 3,000 pounds.
Almost 4,000. Yeah.
You're going to be driving a 4,000 pound car, and we're not going to with vicarious liability. We're not going to hire somebody who has been in 14 crashes because you're going to take that car and kill somebody.
Yeah, or 7 speeding tickets and reckless driving and everything else. No, that's not going to happen. All right.
So they make the offer.
Yeah. So after they make the offer and they say, okay, start on, May 20th or whatever it is, that's when you're going to start, then you can counter and say, okay, well, I need to give 2 weeks on my current job because, they've been really good to me, whatever it is. Or, well, I had a family vacation plan. It's already bought, paid for, tickets paid for, everything. And be like, okay, when is that? Okay, no problem. I'll tell you what, go ahead and you can come in and start. And then when that comes up, you can just take those 2 weeks off, do your family vacation, and then come back. Mm-hmm. Everyone is amenable to what's going on in your life. They're not going to say, well, nope, you either start now or you're not starting.
Yeah. And because everybody's in the same boat.
Everybody.
They're like you said, with the 2 weeks, they're going to appreciate that you are actually responsible enough
yes.
and professional enough to give your former job 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. So once they make the offer, you're going to give you the start date. And when we do our next episode of this, which will be episode 4, we are going to talk about, okay, here you are, day 1. So once they make the offer and they give you the start date, you're going to go in and on our next episode, which will be episode 4, we're going to talk about that day 1, what to expect when you come in, and you're going to be starting your orientation, FTO, whatever it is. So we're going to go into all that. That's when all the meat and potatoes and the fun starts. And that's when we're going to really have a good time. But we had to lead up to that. We just didn't want to start with all the fun stuff. We had to lead up because if people are watching this that are getting ready to go through this system, I want them to know what to expect.
Absolutely. People don't know.
They have no clue. And I get calls all the time. Hey, my son just applied to such stuff. What can I expect? Bam, I got to go through it all.
8 months.
Yeah. So now I'm going to say, go to my videos and watch our videos and we go through the whole damn series. So it's on our playlist, guys. It's down below. It's goes, So You Want to Be a Cop. We appreciate if you like and subscribe.
Absolutely.
And we're rolling right along here.
And always remember, at Surviving the Badge,
still got your 6. Salute. Be careful out there.